It is the section 17. It's talking about gender equality, 50-50 of women.
In the desire to achieve gender equality and gender parity, here on The Shift, we are determined to shift the mindsets of people around the world. The gender gap cannot fully be achieved without involving men. And today we have an all-men cast to discuss gender equality, gender parity, and we have men who are going to share with us their role in empowering women, what they have done, and some of the challenges that they have noted as men in achieving gender equality and empowerment for women. In the studio today, I'm joined by three gentlemen who are going to help us unpack the gender empowerment and also discussing about their role, what they have done, empowering their wives, their sisters, and the women at large. And I'm joined by Nakai, Lungani, and Tao. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So I'm going to firstly ask you to briefly introduce yourselves, starting with Tao, Lungani, and then Nakai.
Thank you so much. I am Taurai Kandishai, a citizen of Zimbabwe, and a believer of women empowerment. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Lungani Zwangobane. I'm with the Zimbabwe Youth Council. I head programming. I'm generally a practitioner in human development, and that is inclusive of young people and women.
Thank you so much for coming to the program, Nakai.
Yes, I'm Nakai Godfrenengo Masha. I'm currently the chairperson of the Men Engaged Alliance in Zimbabwe, and I've worked with men for gender equality for more than a decade.
That's interesting. And starting with you, Tao, what is your understanding of women empowerment as a citizen of Zimbabwe and as a man who also has sisters, a mother, and other women around him?
Thank you so much. My understanding is so basic, and I hope you understand it. Women empowerment, in my understanding, is simply allowing women to fully utilize their talents, fully express their potential, as well as to assist them achieve that which they intend to, without actually suppressing them, without actually overloading them, and without duplicating roles on them. I believe we mustn't expect women to perform duties that are not within their capacities. This is my understanding for women empowerment.
Just from the basic definition that you've given, what do you refer to as duplicating roles? Do we have specific roles for men and also specific roles for women?
Yeah, those are natural. They are there. And we expect women to play around or to deliver on that which is expected from them. An example is, recently we had a joke about Stingy Men Association of Zimbabwe. It was a joke, but clearly, you as women expect some care from men. You expect men to look after you in as much as you are able to look after yourselves. But when we fail to look after you, inshona to itachisebo sevarume. And as a man, if I'm expecting my wife to look after me, to look after the family, I think we'll be overloading them. This is what I mean.
Lungani, what's your take on women empowerment?
Thank you. I think women empowerment is, for me, I think it's simply letting women be who they want to be. providing a place and space where they thrive in whatever they want to endeavor in. I think it's empowerment is empowerment for anyone. It becomes difficult when we say women empowerment, because as far as I'm concerned, I think that women are just the same as men. I think once we start saying women empowerment, youth empowerment, I think there's a background to it, unfortunately, that forces us to then discuss these things in the context of women empowerment. But I think empowerment really is simply letting whoever it is be who they want to be in the space that they find themselves in.
I think you're going to come back to that. But I'm going to ask you, Nakai, with what Tao was saying, to say that there are specific roles for men and there are specific roles for women. As men engage, what is your take on that?
He's right that there are specific roles for men and specific roles for women. When we are looking at things that men can do, it's like some men are able, as much as how good you are as a woman, you are not able to make a woman pregnant. Those are roles that men can do. And also, as good as I don't know how good you are as a man, you are not able to breastfeed, you are not able to go on menses, you're not able to carry a baby. Those are natural things that women can do and men can do. Men is one, women is three. But when it comes to gender roles, these are interchangeable. Anyone can do them. So we need to look at our social expectation. But otherwise, for where I'm coming from, women can be whoever they want to be, like what the colleagues have said. I think what we need to do as men is to help to create the space. The reason why we are talking about empowerment, it means that there's been a breach or a gap in terms of empowering those groups we're talking about. There's something that happened that hindered the empowerment. So now with the recognition, we're saying, let them be empowered to be at their top or at their best. So besides those things that we can't change, that were given by God like that, anybody can do whatever they want to do.
And like what I was saying, that men are supposed to be the one feeding the family. Do you think that women can also do that?
True. And most of us, I was raised by a woman. My dad died when I was very young, so I was raised by a woman. My mom did everything. She didn't need to be a man to be able to raise me. So there's a lot of things, even we can attest, a lot of people that were raised by their grandmothers, their mothers, and even their sisters. We have sisters that actually took roles. Some didn't even go to university. They had to start mothering the other siblings that were there. So feeding, you don't need to be a man to be able to feed the house, to have the household.
And are you comfortable as a man to sit at home and your wife doing all the things?
I don't think you sit in particular, but opportunities are different. You realize that in our country now, you have lots of women working. There's been a shift in the last couple is not the good word, in the last 7 to 10 years, where there was a change in terms of gender roles, in terms of men losing jobs and women actually taking up roles. You realize that Masara ni Musika ndoru zamani, and the woman is there on that, doing the vending and all that. So are you saying because I'm a man, I'm not going to eat the food that is coming from this because Musika, and maybe because it's a woman doing it? No. I think we need to look at it broadly. But what I'm saying is, we don't need to take advantage as men. Of course, we need to do our role. But anybody can bring money to the household.
Mm-hmm. And you've spoken about a shift in gender roles, like what you're alluding to say that men all this time were seen as being captains of industries, and women back then were just confined to the kitchen. Do you think that men are intimidated with seeing women taking key roles, being CEOs or leading industries as well?
It's a lie to say that men were captains of industry and women were kept in the kitchen. There was nothing like that, especially in Zimbabwe. Since back then, I think even before 1980, women were very key. They played key roles. Only that the problem is, if we look at parliament, I'll give an example. The constitution encourages that there should be 50-50, even in cabinet. But in some cases, you find out that the number of women is less than the number of men. So there was no time when women were kept in the kitchens.
Why do you think it's that we find a low proportion with men compared to women?
Yeah, because, you know, for you to become a cabinet minister, you must be an MP or a senator. In order to achieve that, you must win an election. If you contest and lose and you're a woman, then it's done. We have a parliament with a bigger number of men, lesser number of women. See, some of those things that are technical and practical. But on your point of saying women were kept in the kitchens, you agree with me that we realized foreign currency, especially Pula, the rands and stuff, as a product of women. They were going to South Africa, to Botswana, selling, you know, madoiri. They were exporting Nimo, Zungwe and stuff. That was women working for themselves.
Were those roles not only confined to women? Would you see a man doing such roles? Or they were just designated to say, I'm going to drink some madoiri mkats, I'm not drinking some Nimo mkats. Would you see men in that environment?
Yeah, that's why I've said, you know, quite a number of men when going outside, they were drivers and stuff. And nobody barred women from driving trucks, haulage trucks. It's actually women who confined themselves to madoiri because they wanted to do things they can do. We come back to the issues of nature. It's actually women who decided to be going out there with madoiri. Women decided to go out there driving haulage trucks. Yeah.
Logan, would you agree to say that there are certain roles that women can just say they cannot do this? For example, he mentioned the parliament, to say there are a greater percentage of men rather than compared to women because of their elections, and sometimes women cannot really win elections. What's your take on that?
I think for us Africans, it's for us, especially Zimbabweans, I think we need to look at it, especially from a historical point of view. Where we have come from. Remember, we had about 90 years of colonial rule. That point was very important in defining even the roles that we played as men and women in the family. Remember that when we were colonized, the men were the ones who were allowed to leave the reserves to go and work in the towns. And they had to get a certificate from the white, was it the white farm or the white miner? And women were not allowed to go and work. It took a long time for women to emancipate themselves from that. But before that, women and men played equal roles in the family. We know that in our tradition, we had hunters and gatherers. The division of labor in the family was equal. If you look at even the African tradition, there were things that we believed women could only do, like even get gold from the ground. There were traditions that said if a man went and was looking for gold, they would not get it, but women would get it because of the relationship between women and the earth. So if you look at our history, we know for certain that women had powerful roles in the family. You look at Chaka. You look at the roles that his mother played, his aunt played. You look at a lot of historical figures in our history. Women played very important and powerful and influential roles in the family. They defined the family. Then comes that period, 90 years. That was a very defining period. So it then leads us to where we are now, to say what role then did men play even in the emancipation of Africans in our independence. It was men, but it did not happen because men felt that this is what we can do and women, this is what you want to do. But it was defined by the times that were there. But we must agree that we as Africans have always respected the roles that each one of us played. So when we come to Parliament of Zimbabwe, there's a huge historical context that we must then look at to say who was allowed to go where, by who. And this is what got us where we are now, to say eventually when our brothers and fathers realized that women also played an important role even back then in the Chaka period, that's when they started recruiting women into the war. And we saw women coming in and women who are MPs. So I think that anyone can play any role, but we must move from the point where we were left at, which is the point that we were made to believe that only men can do this, only men were certified to go into Harare and work, only bachelors were given properties in town to work, and that is really, in my belief, that is really what got especially us Zimbabweans to where we are. But I think it is forced to say that women cannot do certain things, but it was forced upon them.
Mm-hmm. And Nakai, what is your understanding of the 50-50 motion that women are advocating for, from what Lungani is saying?
I think the whole idea is women are beginning to see that there are certain spaces that they are not there, and we know that they constitute 52% of the population. So they are also seeing that they are not in certain spaces that they need to be, like what Lungani is saying. That caused a lot of difference in terms of who occupies what space and at what level. We're told and we know Kuti Kumbare Kumajubek was for bachelors. Mm-hmm. So you could not then show up there. You were supposed to be maybe confined to the villages because even the accommodation setup was not that. But having that, we are saying now we are living in a different space, we are in a different time zone. What is it that we can do to make sure that women also occupy certain spaces that they were not occupying in the past? I think that's the bigger question that we need to answer. And when women empowerment projects or when women empowerment discourse is happening, it's not happening because or we are doing it because we feel pity for women, but it's the right thing to do. We are 52% of the population, which must also contribute to the development of the nation. Women have great ideas. Women have great. We have seen even in some spaces there was a research that was done. I think it was in around 1996 to 2000, around there, which showed that some houses in, was it Glenview and Udiview, that were owned, or the houses that were that had a husband were not completed, but the house that had women only were completed and extended when they were given. So it shows that women can actually do more. They are equal human beings. There's besides those key roles I said before, anything else they can actually have brilliant ideas. So it's a noble idea to have women saying they also want to occupy the space, they also want to come to the discourse, they also want to contribute, and we must as men also realize that by joining forces together with women, we will accomplish more.
Mm-hmm. And in a bit to empower women, the parliament has also introduced the quota system. Tao, what's your take on the quota system? Do you think it's effective in empowering more women into politics?
Yeah, it is very, very effective, but I see it as a direct contradiction to the issue of equality. If then we say we are equal, then there mustn't be a specific allocation of posts in parliament. That alone is a clear confirmation that women are taken as underprivileged. They should be allowed to contest and to win elections and to occupy parliament, as my brother said, to say the ground is fair. 50-50 is here, we are all equal, we can do everything, Sevan, let's contest, whoever wins, occupy a seat in parliament. But then if we say, let's have a gazetted number of women in parliament as a way of empowering them, the challenge now is who elects those women into parliament, even if it's internal elections from political parties. Is it women alone? If it's women alone, then will the candidate be able to work with women going forward? The challenge that I've seen in this country or in Africa, maybe across the world, is that once a woman is given a position, she surrounds herself with men, thereby disadvantaging those who elected her, thinking that maybe as women we are going to benefit from this post.
What do you mean when you say surrounding yourself?
I'll give an example. We had Joyce Mjuru as the vice president. Look, she did Masimtasa, Rugare Gumbo, Sylvester Nguni, Kudakwashe Basket. There's nobody, there was no woman around here. We had Grace Mugabe ascending up there. She had, Patrick Joao, Sevia Kasukwere, Jonathan Moyo. No women. So at the end of the day, women are not benefiting from all these policies, because the people, when they get there, they surround themselves with men. So you threaten each other, I think. So if we want to discuss women empowerment in a real context, you as women must have your own meetings to address yourselves so that you agree on the way forward before you come to us.
Lungani, what's your take on what Tao is saying?
Okay, I can't comment on what Tao is saying.
Okay, what's
but my take is that I think it is false for any man to think that they are doing women a favor. We know that there was the Abuja Declaration and other many declarations. Those were women who were fighting to get spaces, and women fought to get their spaces. They just didn't get guns and go into the streets and fight, but they fought to get those things. They fought even through the constitution, which is the law, the supreme law of the country. They did not get that by the mercies of the men. They fought for that, and mainly because, like Nakai was saying, they have an advantage because of their numbers. So if women want something, they will get it, and it will be foolish for us to think that we are giving them. I think they are taking. In terms of the women's quota in Parliament, I think that it's a brilliant idea. It is meant to correct historical imbalances that we've been talking about. So you need to understand what historical imbalances occurred that made women not appear in Parliament. But I think that, personally, I think that there's a weakness in how it is implemented, in that where young women are given into the women's quota, you see them performing. We have Tatenda Mavetera. She is a dynamic and robust young person who is fighting for women and young people in Parliament. She got in through the women's quota. But then if you compare with other ladies or women who got in there, and perhaps they feel that they were owed something, and then they got into the women's quota, then their performance is relatively lower as compared to young people who are being given these spaces. So I think that the women's quota is a brilliant idea, but it perhaps must be given to young women who appreciate, who are thirsty for leadership, who are thirsty for spaces to speak and to demand empowerment for themselves and for the general young women and young people in Zimbabwe. I personally think that the implementation may have some loopholes, but it's a brilliant idea.
Mm-hmm. Nakai, there are women we've discussed with, and they've spoken about how other women do not support each other, like what I was saying. In your view, do you think that women are not supporting other women enough? When you talk about the quota system, like when another woman rises up, definitely she will surround herself with men rather than other women as well. What is your observation on this?
It's an interesting one. When you look at a study, or when you want to talk about spaces, you realize that there are certain spaces that are called claimed spaces. There are also certain places, when it is a claimed space, mostly you are invited. Let's say we're in this space and the door is closed and you want to get in, but there are already people that have claimed that space. Those people have to open it for you. If they don't, then you don't get in that space. And we realize that in terms of parliament, in terms of leadership and politics in Africa in general, it's a space that is maybe claimed. There were people that were there before. So when a quota system, I agree, it's a noble idea, because what it's bringing, it's saying we want to create space for people that didn't have space. So I agree with that. But I think when it comes to maybe, like what you were saying, in the implementation maybe, how it's being done, but also when you get there, there are two women. There's you, who came through the quota system, and there's Susan, who was elected. Are you seen as equal? You know, we need to debunk that, because it doesn't matter how you got there. You're a woman in that space, and we must, or women must work together, and together with men. This is not an agenda of trying to say who is better than who, but I think we must, or people must work together. I'm looking at, okay, I'll comment on this. I'll look at spaces. If you look in most of politics or institutions of leadership in Africa, you realize that there is maybe a women's side, or maybe the league, and then there's also a youth league in some. But I'm yet to hear about the men's league, and that tells you something. It is gendered. It's gendered. What it just tells you is that there is a space created for women, and there's a space created for young women, and the rest of the cake is for us. And who does that? I don't know. But it's just an observation. You realize that the space is claimed. So when you're coming in a claimed space, who allocate you space, and you sit in that place. Unfortunately, those who appoint, sometimes you end up serving. Not that maybe you are surrounding yourself, but you might end up serving the people that have appointed, unfortunately. Sometimes it happens. It can happen even at home. It can happen even, you realize when you're moving out as a father at home, maybe you have sons and daughters, and you say to your 4-year-old, Tabo, I'm leaving, you are the man of the house, I'm going, and they are older girls like yourself. When you come back as the father, you hear that 4-year-old saying, Thing did this, thing that they feel like they need to give you feedback. They need to, because they owe it to you, because you gave them something. I think that's something that we need to challenge and debunk together, and begin to reflect on it, to say, okay, when we get into spaces, who does what, when, how can they be supported? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And there are narratives that women have said, to say that most of the times, if women want an opportunity, let's say for instance, I want a job, I come to your office, you ask for sacred favors. Why do you do that?
That's a direct
Men.
No, you know what? Yeah, I will speak about what my brother was saying first before I respond to your question. We are now suffering reverse discrimination. It's true, there's women's bank and stuff. The same women can also access loans from the banks we access loans, but there are no specific banks for us. You see, it's like, sorry to say, it's like the way we respect maybe the disadvantaged at a queue. We are queuing maybe to buy sugar. Somebody comes on a wheelchair, and maybe we are fought is the last person. We pave way for the person first, yeah? But what if they are 40 disabled people, and I am the only one there? How do you treat that situation? We're at a queue. I'm the last one, and they are 40. How do you treat that situation?
No, you can explain.
Yeah, I think you have heard what I'm saying. So what we need to deal with is to avoid face discrimination. Whereby if we agree that we are equal opportunities for all. It means when we are faced with challenges and problems, they must face us all. There mustn't be some issues that are said to Izulezwa Warume, Izulezwa Wakadzi. Let's clear the ground and make sure the ground is even for all of us. If we are to wake up tomorrow and see a parliament full of women, that's it. If we are to wake up tomorrow and see a parliament full of men, that's it. Now, in terms of women offering services, in return for job, it's not men who propose for that. It's actually women.
What do you mean when you say women?
You know what? If I'm dating with you and you don't want that, it will not happen.
But when we talk about a job, it means you have more power than me, and definitely I want the
And
job.
if you feel that you can offer services to get a job in return, and I'm willing to do that, I can do it. But if you feel that you can secure the job by your qualifications, it's all fair. You can get by your qualifications. So it's actually some women who give us hope that if you give me this, in return, I can also do this for you. And we have no obligation to deny or to agree. You can do what you think is best for you as a man.
Lugan, what's your take? What's your comment on that?
I think that the agenda to empower women or to try and put women at the same level as men is noble and it's genuine. I think it is because naturally we are different. Like Nakai said initially, in terms of you can't. I don't take 9 months out, to carry a baby and 3 months to look after that baby. Every month I don't have a week where I go on my menses and I'm in pain and I miss school sometimes, or I miss work, or I miss important opportunities. I think that there are also some jobs where a woman would love to do them, but because physically they don't have the strength that men have, so they are disadvantaged in a lot of ways because our environment as it is and what they bring to the table leaves them in a place where they need that special attention. So I think that to look at the empowerment of women specifically and not let it be muddled by the empowerment that men want. I think it is noble and it must remain noble as far as possible. But I think when we come to issues of sexual services, I think Itao is right. It takes both people, both persons to really be involved in that. I think that a lot of women would disagree with you to say that when that opportunity arose, they were found wanting. Yeah, I think there are times where there are women who come prepared for that. Whatever goes, as long as I get it. And when you meet a person or a man whose morals are also found wanting, they will indulge in that. So I don't think that it could really be said it's a fault that you really squarely put on men. I think it takes both to really find themselves in that.
What's your comment on that? Do you think that women also want that? Because there are women who have said they really want opportunities, and then when they knock a door, they are shown a bed to say, if you want this opportunity, you need to sleep with me or you need to do certain things.
Remember I talked about claim spaces. When it is like that, it's very unfortunate that maybe the people that have claimed the space might want to take advantage of women. If we have someone who is sitting behind the desk and that's their system of taking advantage of women and young women, unfortunately, they will do that, whether the women like it or they don't. I've interacted with some women that have lost opportunities because of that. They had qualified, they were they were ready to take up them, but the only reason that they didn't go to bed with the person who was behind that desk, they lost opportunities. So I hear what colleagues are saying, to say maybe there might be one or two or some that will throw themselves because they feel like, for you to be in this claimed space, I need to do something. And all I have is this. It's unfortunate for women to be in that space. But I don't know whether I can claim that entirely, to say we can blame women on that, because I have interacted, I have seen, and I've heard of men that really do that and take advantage of women at every level, be it interns. We have stories of being, even at college, university, some would want to actually give a sexually transmitted degree because they make sure that you fail a module because you didn't give the favors. We know this thing. It's just that maybe we have not created more space to really talk about it. It's a white elephant in the room. We know it's there, but we're not talking about it. I think it's a high time we begin to expose. It's only when we get one or two the young women that will talk about it, that's where we start to hear me too, me too, me too coming out. And then we realize maybe this was institutionalized. I can imagine a space where you are the CEO and everybody that comes there, you have to go to bed with them. And you end up having an institution full of people that gives you sexual favors. I don't know how it works, but I think it is a very bad way of handling leadership. Actually, those men will not represent us as men well, because it will be then it's some few at the top that are doing that, and they will spoil everybody. Or it's some that goes out and they urinate everywhere, and everybody will say, when they go out there, they don't even respect them. But then it will be like, all men are like that. And unfortunately, there are some few maybe young women that will also throw themselves. And apparently, it will then be labeled all. But I don't think it's fair to label all.
Okay, and you want to add?
Yeah, this is a controversial discussion. However, if we are to wake up in 2023 with a whole parliament of women members of parliament, are we to continue with women's quota? Let's say we have 256 women occupying parliament. Are we also going to have the 10 from the women's quota? That's how you see the issues of reverse discrimination. Or maybe we are to have men's quota. What it simply means is that women are still vulnerable, but not because of men, but because of themselves. Because quite a number of them don't want to taste the coffee. They still survive on privileges, in as much as they have rights, but they resorted to apply privileges. They want favor, among other things. So if we need to realize women empowerment, reality on ground, we need women themselves to realize that they are humans equal to us. And they can get everything they want without being given a favor. And without expecting us men to prepare ground for women. Because we are equal. We are busy creating our own ground. Women should also create their own ground. Other than to say, I create my own ground as a man because I also want an opportunity. At the same time, I must create for women. So as women should stop expecting men to empower them. They should stop expecting men to level their ground. They must do it themselves. We can't be doing two jobs. Except if we agree that there is no 50-50. We are not equal. Women depends on us. Then we can prepare our ground. Spare time we prepare theirs. Yeah.
As we wrap up, Lungani, what's your parting shot as you talk about women empowerment and the role of men in also supporting women's work?
I think that for me it remains important. Why I say that again is it's been 500 years since slavery, and as black people we still think we are inferior to white people. It's the mind. It's just the mind of the people that must change, and you can't change the mind of the people within 10 years, 20 years. It takes a long time. For women, like I said, in Zimbabwe, it probably took maybe 100 years for someone to tell them, you stay at home, you don't go anywhere, you don't go to work, and to erase that from women and from generations and generations of women who taught their children, their grandchildren. It really takes a lot of time. That women's quota should be there for probably another 100 years so that women understand that they can do it. I think it's a persuasive process. I think it must be done, and we are learning. We must learn through and through. The women's quota is just one example. I'm sure we'll come up with other programs that seek to empower women or to just convince them that they can lead. You can't simply tell them you can lead and you expect them to pick up themselves and lead. It's a process that takes a long time. It's a process that took a long time for them to be where they are. So I think that we have a long way to go to see to it that women are fully empowered and are taking up roles equally as men do take them up.
Mm-hmm. You seem to disagree.
Yeah, still my question is not answered. If we are to wake up with a whole parliament of women in 2023, are we still to continue with women's quota?
I think the question that Tao asks does not arise, mainly because of the fact that women are not empowered to that extent. 2023 will not happen where women take up 100% or 50% of seats. Neither will 2030 or 2040. It's a process that will take a long time. And the reason why aggressive measures are being taken to put 60 women in parliament is because you must be aggressive to convince women that they can do it, because they spent 500 years being told that they can't do it.
Yeah, I believe women can do it, and my brother doesn't believe you can do.
I believe they can do it, but I am saying that they must be convinced aggressively that they can do it. But it is not going to happen overnight, because we took 500 years telling them that they can't. So we must take another 40 years or 50 years telling them that they can do it, and they will do it. We know they can do it. But the mind that we manipulated over the 100 years of colonialism, over the 500 years of slavery, has convinced them that they can't.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm looking on equality and equity, and I'm thinking it's easy to say women must do it on their own, but practically we know that we need to work together, because I'm looking at a space where women are starting from a disadvantaged space, and they need to be, let's say I have 3 steps here, and if we give each other, me, Tabo, and him, the steps, and we stand on those steps and they are same level, we are either going to be, one of us is going to be the tallest and they might not even see their view. Because I'm shorter, maybe I'm going to have a good view, but maybe because he's even shorter than me, he might not even see as far as I'm seeing. But if we give him 2, I 1, and he doesn't need any, we can all be equal. So when we look at equity and empowerment, we need to consider that. I think that's why there's the quota system. The quota system then says women are starting at a disadvantage already. Even when they are going for the parliamentary, I don't know what they are called in their own parties when they are doing their elections. Sorry that my information around politics is not that great. When they are doing their primary elections and all that, this space is not the same. Even when you because of the leadership is like a gender thing, so you realize that the space is not equal. So I agree and I support giving space to some like that, doing things like quota system, giving space, because there some that were very, very disadvantaged. But what we need to also look at is my parting point. We need to realize that socialization is not only in the past tense. Socialization is also in the present tense. What is it that we are doing now to socialize our daughters, our sisters, to begin to see the world differently? He said it rightly that it took 100 years. But if we wait for another 100 years, not socializing now, thinking that socialization is in the past tense, we'll miss the mark. We need now, with our daughters, with our young sisters, even older, to begin to say, there is space. I'm going to support you. I'm going to stand by you. What is it that you need? I'll take your hand and walk with you step by step to make sure that you'll be there. I'll support your goal. For me, women empowerment and male involvement goes hand in hand. Male involvement is not taking resources from women empowerment and give it to male involvement. But what it does, it all has one agenda of achieving gender justice. So you support each other. Male involvement must, a good male involvement program must support women empowerment. And it must also embrace and listen to women's voices. And I think we as men, for a very long time, some of us have not listened to the narrative of women. It's a high time that we listen to the narrative of women and start doing programs on their behalf, but allow them to do programs and allow them to air their fears and anxieties in some spaces that they want to be, and support them through the process. Then we begin to unlearn, we begin to relearn some things that we need to learn together, and also we keep learning.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to thank you so much for joining me in this episode of The Shift, as we were discussing the role of men in complementing women's achievements, in complementing women's roles. And I think you have really benefited from this program. And from me and the rest of the crew behind the scenes, it's a good afternoon.